This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, Alexis, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, Orlando. How are you?
Very good. Is it Cubit? Is it pronounced Cubit?
Cubit.
Oh, Cubit. There you go. All right. So make sure you follow her on Twitter at Alexis_Cubit, Cubit. All right, Alexis. I'm looking forward to this game on Friday. This is cool because Friday nights kind of showcase games for both teams. Obviously, everybody loves to recruit. Everybody loves to have like a showcase stage. And that's what Friday night is all about for both teams.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's a great opportunity for both teams, like you mentioned. Definitely looking forward to getting down to Miami for selfish reasons, but the game is one of them.
No doubt. And I was thinking about this, Alexis, because both defenses are awesome.
hmm
It's like a challenge of the offense that deciphers their defense. The defense that they face better is the one that wins this game because the one thing that we can look at the strength of both of their teams are the defenses. So they're going to
Absolutely.
lean a lot on that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I totally agree. And so funny thing too is that a lot of those defensive guys know each other, because Wesley Renee and Akeem obviously coming from Canada, and then Wesley Renee and Mama Teray played at Rutgers together. So, it's a lot of guys that have learned from each other, grew up together. Really, really interesting. But no, like you said, that's definitely the side of the ball that I'm most interested in looking at. And just because of the offensive struggles that Louisville has, I just hope that they can keep Miller upright.
Yeah,
um,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that
yeah,
part of it because that one's going to be. But how do you expect the Louisville defense, who's like allowing like 150 yards? Now, there's some talk, of course, the opponents that they've had. It hasn't been upper level, so this is kind of like their hardest test so far. Virginia was like their hardest test, and they ended up losing that one in overtime. But what has been successful for them in the passing game, because obviously Malachi, Tony, and CJ, this is one heck of a receiving core that's coming at Louisville this week.
yeah, no, definitely. And I think the thing that we, you look at the final score of that Virginia game, but they only gave up one touchdown in regulation. 14 of those points came from offensive mistakes. But no, I think this will be a great challenge for them. I definitely think that their passing defense has improved a lot from last year. Obviously, a pass rush will be a big thing. But, I was talking to another guy, and, they don't have like the biggest guys, but they're athletic, they're quick. Clev Lubin has obviously been the driving force behind that D line. Guy, he's funny. I had asked him when he first got here, what has allowed you to just be able to acclimate so quickly? Obviously, coming from, a different school and non-power four conference, because I'm a baller. I'm just like, well, all right. That's all you need to know,
Yeah.
But no, I think, you have a bunch of guys who last year there were some names like the Quincy Rileys, the Ashton Gelatis, that sort of thing. But this year, you don't really have a lot of big name guys per se, and I think that they have a chip on their shoulder, and that kind of feeds that. And they're welcome that challenge of playing someone and facing, like you said, those receivers, Malachi Tony, who I think you guys refer to him as Baby Jesus. Is that what I
Yeah.
heard?
God, I got Alexis. I have rarely seen an 18-year-old who's that mature.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. Wow. Like he won't get baited. He is like, he's super intelligent.
hmm
He's not 18. He's just not 18. And he
Yeah.
just turned 18. Like just a few weeks ago, he just
Oh
turned
wow.
18. Yeah. Yeah. The kid's like supposed to still be getting ready for the prom or something.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, no, seriously. Like he's the kind of kid that you're like, wow, I want my daughter to, meet a guy like that. You know what I mean? Like he's really level-headed for an 18-year-old beyond his years. I think that's what makes him what he is.
Mm.
He blocks people right out of the damn field.
Yeah.
I'm like it's really impressive. So when we look at the Louisville defense and why it's had success, Alexis, is it more about the pass rush? Is it more about their secondary? Is it a combination? What are we going to see on Friday from those guys?
Yeah, no, I definitely think you have to start with the pass rush because those D linemen are getting into the backfield. They're putting pressure on the quarterback. They're, collapsing the pocket. But also the leading tackler right now is their safety, D'Angelo Hutchinson, who is a guy who is, it's funny because whenever you hear about a player, it's like, oh, where did he transfer from? No, D'Angelo has been at Louisville his whole career, kind of a backup guy, but now is getting his opportunity. So you definitely have to start up front. That's the biggest thing. Those guys are really what makes this defense go. And then you just kind of move position by position. Even within the linebackers, it was unfortunate that they lost Stanquan Clark, who, another guy who has a lot of experience, veteran talent. But you get TJ Quinn, who's been the leading tackler for the past 2 years. The linebacker room has been the most consistent, I will say, just because they had the most returning starters with TJ and Stanquan and then Antonio Watts. But it's still up front for me is where the strength is right now, just because they're able to really impose their will on O-lines. Like you said, opponents considered, of course, but, Pitt on the road was a big test for them, and they kind of just barely got away with that one. Virginia, obviously, they, did a lot of good things, but obviously not enough to win. So, yeah, and then you go into this week, and they do tend to sometimes give up some big plays, but in the red zone, they really hunker down. I believe they're top 10, maybe top 15 in red zone defense. So, but yeah, a lot of that starts up front, and then you go into that secondary that's played a lot better with all new starters because Louisville lost all four of their.
To bend a little, but not break, because once they get into
Yes.
the red zone, they kind of tighten up a little bit. I get it. And when you're talking about the safety leading in tackles, then I would imagine that the safety and Mark Fletcher are going to get to know each other very well in this game. I would imagine. Now, what would you say to the folks that say, okay, Eastern Kentucky, James Madison, Bowling Green, and then Pitt? Those are the victories for them. The losses, Virginia. You mentioned the Pitt win, which is a quality win, by the way, overall. But because of the Eastern Kentucky, the James Madison, and the Bowling Green, some people think they've kind of built up a little bit on the record wise. What would you counter with that?
I mean, I would say that's fair, but also look at how they were winning. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of questions on offense that, like I said, we'll get to. But when you
Yeah.
look at this defense, and I mean, they weren't playing, power teams last year either, and the defense was still giving up a lot of points. So I think you have to consider the fact that yes, they weren't maybe playing, Alabama or, whatever, but I still think that they have shown growth because a lot of the teams like that they played last year were, group of five teams as well, but they didn't lock up as well as they could have. So, and I think, like you said, the Pitt one is really the one that I kind of look at because, yeah, Eastern Kentucky Bowling Green's kind of like, nah. But for what they were really able to do against Pitt, and even in Virginia, Virginia was averaging like 500 yards of
Good.
offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Louisville held them to less than 300 yards of offense. That there's something, you don't go by moral victories. That's not going to win them an ACC championship. But I think there's still something to be said about being able to hold a team like that to one touchdown in regulation and less than, well under their season average.
Yeah. I didn't see the James Madison game, but James Madison is usually one of those teams that if you screw around, they can actually surprise you every once in a while. So you got to
Yeah.
watch out. It's just kind of one of those teams. All right. So let's get to the meat of the matter and where I think this will be the difference in the game. Miami's defense, they've got maybe the best best pass rushing pair in the country. The
Yeah.
secondary is drastically improved. The
Mhm.
defensive coordinator has really made a big change. They
Mhm.
have a real problem protecting Moss. They've had
Yeah.
some turnovers. This is where I think there's going to be a lopsided approach to this game.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the defense could, cause some problems for Miami's offense at times. I think there could be a little bit of a battle there at times. I think this could be a dominating part. And let me tell you, it's not like Isaac Brown can't play. Miller
Right.
Moss is a good player. Kiwan, a good player. Chris Bell is having a good year. It's not like they don't have talent,
Right.
but it's just like they haven't put it together. And
Mhm.
up against those pass rushers, how do they keep Miller? Like you started the interview by already kind of delivering it a little bit. If they could keep him upright, so
Yeah.
you and I are kind of on the same page here.
Absolutely.
I think that's going to be the real problem for Louisville in this one. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so here's the thing that I think is, I mean, you obviously don't want to use injuries as an excuse, but when you had two dominant true freshmen like Isaac Brown and Duke Watson, and they're not healthy, I'd venture to say that Duke will not play this game just because the past two games he's left early with that same ankle injury. It's very limiting because Jeff Brom has thrived on play action. He's thrived on, having a balanced attack, even though he's known more for the pass game. He's had some decent running backs that he's coached. No one expected Isaac to do what he did, but to have them hurt very early on is very limiting. And so when you can't, just hand the ball off to him. Um, Obviously, you have to depend on the pass a little more, and that's not been great, especially when you had, O-linemen that simply just cannot block for Miller right now. They've tried different combinations. Trevonte Sylvester was probably one of their best returning O-linemen. He got hurt in the preseason, so he's just now kind of getting back, trying to get those reps, now moving into a starting role. Just some really bad blocking. And I won't put it all on them because there have been some times where Miller just has not made good decisions or just kind of does not show the poise that you would think someone who is a veteran would show in certain situations. But he's still getting used to the offense, it sounds like. And so when you come into an offense that you're having to learn, but then you're now having to adjust that because you don't have your running backs, it's not good. So I think the biggest thing is they're just gonna have to go tempo, like get the ball out as quickly as possible because those guys are coming.
Yeah, yeah, and if they don't establish the run somehow, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah,
Uh, because they're going to need to take some pressure off. They can't.
right.
They the Miami's pass rush is so vicious, they cannot find themselves in second and third and longs
No.
because that's really going to be a real problem for Louisville. I think this is
Mhm.
where the tables can really turn in the game because of where the defense is at and where Louisville's offense is not, like you said. And it's not excuses. These are facts, man.
Yeah.
These are facts. When you lose key players, it's just hard to replace them. And if they're not healthy when they're playing, it's also, it just it puts, and then you're going up against one of the better teams in the country, you
Right.
know, and that defensive front is just vicious. It's
Yeah,
really
it's insane. And obviously the bye week helped, but you'd almost hope to have a little bit of a softer, for lack of a better term, opponent coming out of the bye with those kind of injuries and that loss as like a get right game. But this is
right.
just a trial by fire experience. And I will say, even though their offense has struggled, Chris Bell has had a hell of a season. You
It's
know,
good.
yeah, another guy who has been at Louisville his whole career, just maybe hasn't been as mature to get some of those opportunities. And he just talked about that before, just learning how to control his emotions. But man, he's been huge for them this season. I mean, back-to-back 100-yard receiving games. So, if they can get it to him, I mean, and he's big, you know what I mean? Like he's got this little baby face with this grown man body, and it's just insane what he's been able to do this season. So if they can get it to him, he's gonna make plays. Colin Lacey, same thing, but it's just a matter of getting it to them.
Alexis, give me the prediction. What's going to happen on Friday night?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and give Louisville some bulletin board material because I think they get lost number two. I don't think this offense is ready right now. I think the defense can make enough stops, but it's a matter of how long they're on the field. Fatigue will set in because they're human, contrary to what some fans may think. Um,
And Mario will run. He will
yes,
run the ball, so he
yes,
will wear them out in that second half. Yeah, that is a very good point that you're making on that defense because if they're out there and then they got to deal with some long drives, that third and fourth quarter in the humidity of South Florida, you're right.
hmm
It's an evening, there'll still be humidity. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I have Miami winning 35 to I think 20. What did I do? 35 or 38 to 28. I do think it's going to be a close game because that's just how Louisville and Miami have gone. But I think Miami pulls away a little bit. Home field advantage, like you said, just them being able to get that one extra play. I think Miami will get this win.
Alexis, great stuff. Follow her on Twitter at Alexis_Cubit, right?
Yes.
Right? There you go. And catch her work there at the Courier Journal Sport. Thank you as always, Alexis. Hopefully we'll talk down the line again. I appreciate you and enjoy your trip to South Florida on
Yes.
this week. All right.
Thank you so much.
You got it. Be good,
All
Alexis.
right. Bye-bye.
Alexis Cubit. All right. Good stuff there. Previewing the Miami Louisville game.